What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another episode of Video Game Collectors on Call. Today, I have Nintendo Cam with me. Cam, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And obviously, your name says Nintendo Cam. So I'm curious. What's the infatuation with Nintendo, or do you love all video games?
I definitely lean more towards Nintendo. I'm not sure what exactly caught me. I had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis growing up, but I just kind of stuck with the Metroids and the Mario's more than
Okay.
the Streets of Rages and uh,
Yeah, yeah.
Sonic. So
So what about when you start? You talked about having a Sega and things when you were younger. Do you remember like the moment when you first started your love for video games?
I don't. I've always had video games in my life. My dad had the newest console every single every generation, and so I also had every console until my parents split up. But it just kind of stuck with me.
When did it turn into collecting things, or has it always been collecting where you've kept everything you've gotten since the beginning?
Yeah, so I've kept a lot from when I was growing up, but probably about 2015 is when I really started kind of actually collecting. I had
Hmm.
got married and had my own space and that kind of thing. So probably about 90% of my collection is since 2015, and really even more like 2019 when I really got even deeper into it.
I think there's two different scenarios I run into when I ask that question. And the first is that someone has been collecting their whole life. So when they were younger, they may have had a Nintendo. They still have all those Nintendo games. They have all those games from, they've never sold or gotten rid of a game. And then there's maybe someone like me who had some games when they were younger. Somehow they all got sold or lost, and now they're older and wanting to relive that nostalgia and going back and buy them. So do
Yeah,
you
that's definitely a
do
big
you
part of it. I think a lot of people, when you start collecting, it's like, okay, what did I have when I was growing up? What did I want to have when I was growing up? You know,
Mhm.
and I think that's a real big part of collecting.
So what do you collect exactly? Do you only collect Nintendo things or a little bit of everything?
Primarily Nintendo. So I have right now almost 1,300 games. My primary goal right now is to collect all of the Mario games, and so I
Okay.
have 340 Mario games. Uh, for like Xbox, I think I have maybe 30 games, and that's just for like the 360. That whatever random stuff. I don't have a Series X or a PS5. Um, for PS1, 2, 3, 4, I probably have 100, 150 games. Just kind of your bigger exclusives. But if it came out on a Nintendo console, I typically try to get the Nintendo version.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned 340 Mario games. What's the number? How many are there total? Do you know?
So I have another 90 on the list, uh, almost 500 for
And
me.
that's across all consoles. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, across all consoles. So, NES all the way to Switch, handhelds, Game Boy, Virtual Boy, um, all of the above. I don't collect every single variant, so I don't have all of the players' choices. I just think that's a little excessive.
Right.
Any variant that I'm going for, it's going to have completely different either cover or there's going to be something added to it, like if it's a remake or um, some DLC on it or whatever, which doesn't really happen with Mario games as much, but which is part of what I like about them.
Yeah, yeah. So does that also include, is that strictly just Mario games, like games where he's the star, or are you counting things like maybe he is a side character in, or maybe he's in Smash Brothers? So are you counting that as well?
So I do include like all the Wario games in that, any Yoshi games, any Luigi games, Princess Peach, Captain Toad. Those probably make up, I'd say about 40 of the 340. Most of them are Mario Party, any of the Mario sports games. There's like probably 70 Mario sports games. Mario Kart, obviously. Any of the platformers, the Mario and Luigi RPG games um, come to mind.
What's the weirdest Mario game that you have, or the most obscure one,
Weirdest
or
Mario game.
random one?
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I got one here actually.
yeah. Let's take a look.
So we got Mario's Time Machine.
It's Time Machine. Okay.
On the NES. It is it's one of the like edutainment titles that they did back in the early 90s. So here's the full label here. This guy is one of the more obscure in terms of like, it's expensive because no one wanted to buy it. Ones. But you got Mario traveling around time. I think he meets Abe Lincoln in it. I've actually not played it yet. But
Okay.
It came out on the NES, the Super Nintendo, and I believe on PC. I could be wrong about the PC part, but a lot of those edutainment titles came out on PC as well.
Yeah.
Because they were made not directly by Nintendo. They got a little loosey goosey in that early mid '90s. Much more so than they are now. Now they're pretty strict about everything, right?
Right.
But he kind of bounces around time. He's trying to find probably Princess Peach, and it's similar to the Mario is Missing. But in Mario is Missing, Luigi is traveling around the map to historical places, trying to find him. Bowser's left clues all over the place.
I never liked Mario is Missing. I tried playing that and I just wasn't a fan. But maybe I'll like the what was it called again? Mario's
Time Machine. Yeah,
Mario's Time Machine. Yeah.
It's made by the same people, so I don't have high expectations.
Yeah, the cover is very similar, so that's not
yes,
surprising.
yeah. But both of them were released on the NES and the SNES. The SNES versions are much cheaper. For whatever reason. I think you could get like 3 complete in box Super Nintendo versions for the same price you could get the NES one. So
Talking about complete in box now that's a loose game obviously, but did it come from a box? Are most things that you collect, do you have complete in box games, or are you okay collecting just loose cartridges or loose discs?
I am not okay collecting loose discs.
Okay.
For disc-based games, got to be complete in box, or if the manual's missing, I'll maybe make an exception here and there if it's the right price. For cart games, it depends. For the NES, the vast majority of mine are loose or loose with manual. I try to get the manual for even the loose games. For my Super Nintendo games, and N64 games, I have them in custom game cases. So I have them all with the manual, but most of them are in those custom boxes. Mostly just because it's just so much cheaper. But I do have a handful of complete in box. But the other issue that I've kind of been running into is it's so much easier now to fake the boxes, and I just don't want to. I don't want to run into that or have buy something and then
that's fair.
Down the road I'm selling it and they're like, oh my god, this is fake. And with the custom cases, for sure it's fake. I wouldn't try to play off that it's not.
Where do you get the custom cases? Is it customgamecases.com by chance?
Yep.
Yeah,
that's
where I
got
a whole slew of Game Gear cases that I got. So shout out to Custom Game Cases. Yeah, I think they do a really great job. I highly recommend them. I don't know if you feel the same, but
I do. Yeah, they do a great job. I'm probably due another order actually, but
very good.
But yeah, they do they do good work, and it's for the price. It's usually.
So you have some Nintendo 64 cases from them, right?
I do.
So I just bent over to kind of pick this up. I'm curious because I found this, and I wonder if this is one of theirs. I don't know if you can look at it and say yes, it looks like it. No, it doesn't.
It probably is. I wouldn't be able to really tell. Most of theirs has I get the ones that are the DS color because I
Okay.
wanted it to look, all uniform. But they do a couple different versions of the N64 ones. And I also
Okay.
decided to go with
Oh, Grant, who plays games, will be so excited that you got up. He loves when people get up on the show. He started the trend.
the vertical. But they do horizontal boxes too.
Oh,
But
okay. Okay.
I was kind of like, you know what? I already know it's fake. I don't want anyone to be like, oh, it's, you're trying to pull it off
Yeah.
as something else. But they usually on the insides they say custom game
Oh,
case.
okay. Yeah, this one doesn't. So I wonder. I'll have to look into
So,
that and see where that one came from.
but it
I found it like that. So
yeah yeah it could also be. I think I have some of their older ones that don't have that in it.
mm, okay.
So it could just be an
Okay.
older one too.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. How do you display your collection? Do you obviously, I would think, sort it by system, and then is it alphabetized or what?
Uh, you'll probably think I'm insane because it is insane, but
No.
I do it by system.
Okay.
But then I actually do it chronologically,
Hmm.
and then alphabetically within the year.
So of the year that you purchased it or the year it was released?
The year it was released.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think if I had more, like I don't have a complete set of any system. I
Hmm.
probably wouldn't go that route. But for some reason that is what stuck in my head to do.
Okay. No,
Most
that's
consoles,
interesting.
yeah. um, some of the consoles I do it by publisher too. Um, so it just depends on
Yeah.
you know, on what made sense to me when I was lining that shelf up.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different options. Obviously alphabetical is the most common one. That's what I do with my games for the most part. But then I've like yourself. So you're the first one that's done it by year of release. So that's interesting. That's new. And then at first I thought you were gonna say that you just throw them on the shelf and like Xbox is mixed in with Nintendo, which is mixed in with GameCube, and that would be absolute anarchy. So
So I have a you asked me earlier if I collected Xbox anything that's not Nintendo. The all of the Nintendo stuff is prominently displayed. Here, I can give you a peek over here.
mhm,
That's the retro shelf
got it.
there.
Okay.
NES to N64, and then the other stuff's back over there. But I have all of my PlayStation and Xbox stuff is in a closed door cabinet, um, and it's half the size of that. So I have
Okay.
three of those with
That's
Nintendo
fair.
stuff, and
Wow.
um,
You definitely have a lot of Nintendo stuff for sure. Have you played all of those games that you
oh
have?
god, no, no,
No. Okay.
not even close. I mean,
Okay.
when for so I'm one of those weird people that if I'm going to play the game, I play it to like 100%.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, and I don't play multiple games at the same time typically.
Okay.
So like if I'm working on Yoshi's Story, only saying that because it's for some
Yeah.
reason in my N64 right now. That's all I'm
Yeah.
working on.
Okay.
So right now my daughter has me playing Link's Awakening on the Switch with her. And so that's pretty
Okay.
much all we've been playing recently.
That's a,
Um,
that's a good way
I'm
to do
hoping to
it.
get
Yeah.
yeah yeah it's good and bad, right? You get
Yeah.
stuck in
Yeah.
some of those weird spots where you're like grinding it out, and most of the games that I play, I don't have to do a ton of grinding. I prefer kind of platformers and
Right.
Metrovanias where you don't have to level your character up excuse me necessarily. So that helps
I
a little
will
bit.
I will play, I'll usually have one game that I'm working through from beginning to end, and then kind of like the platformers or the things like that you're talking about, like maybe some 64 games or Super Nintendo games that I just, I'm not really trying to beat. I just pop in and just play for a little bit. Sometimes I'll do that. So no, it's like when I watch TV shows, I feel like I can only watch one TV show at a time instead of getting involved in multiple TV shows because I get everything confused. And I think the same can happen with games, right? You're like, well, wait a minute, what
Yeah,
happened before I got to this point? So,
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, we took 2 weeks away from Link's Awakening, and it's a fairly simple game. It's a Game Boy game, right?
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
on the Switch, but and I was like, hold on, where were we supposed to be going next?
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
it's only been two
Yeah.
weeks. I should know this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, where do you typically buy things at? Do you go online? Do you have a shop in your city that you like to go to that you want to give a shout out to?
uh, well, so there's a spot here called Play It that I like.
Okay.
They've got a pretty wide variety of things. A couple locations here. But I wouldn't say I buy most of my games from them.
Mhm.
Mostly because it borderline high prices, but fair for what the selection is, and obviously they got a storefront, they got people to pay and stuff. I get that. Typically, I buy stuff through claim sales on Instagram. So somebody that I know or trust, is selling stuff on there. So I probably have, I don't know, probably about 10 accounts that I follow that do regular claim sales on there, and I
Okay.
get probably the majority of my games that way.
What do you mean
And
by
they're willing to make.
claim sales? Explain that to me because I'm not familiar with that term.
Oh, sorry. I
No, that's
So
okay.
someone will post something on Instagram. They'll throw a price tag on it, in the comments, and the first person to type claim in the comments gets the item.
Ah, okay, gotcha. So there's
So
no
I
bartering or anything. There's no like will you do 15? Will you do 20? Like it's just what it
no,
is.
you certainly
The first
can.
come.
If so, typically with the claim sales, it depends on how the person wants to run it. Um, but typically, they'll throw up a price, and you know it's usually under price charting by 10 to 30% probably, in some cases. And so typically you're pretty willing to pay the price, or you're not. There will be some people that are like, hey, do you want to trade blah for this? And typically they'll honor whoever claims at the regular price within the first 24 hours, and then do trades or accept lower offers after. So a lot of times what I actually do, I'll peek on the claim sale as it's like live, and then the next day I'll go through and see what people haven't claimed, and I'll send a list to these folks and say, hey, these are the games I'm interested in. I'll DM them. Uh, you know, can you cut me a deal, or can you do like free shipping or something silly? Um, and that's been relatively successful for me.
What's the transaction like for that? How do you pay these people? Because I would feel it'd be kind of weird for me not using a secure site like eBay or something, knowing that if something happens, I could get refunded.
Yeah, yeah. So you go through PayPal or Venmo. Um, just depends on the person. And again, uh, all of the people that I buy from, I've either bought from in the past, or someone else has recommended them to me to buy
Okay.
from.
Okay.
And I like the first transaction I'll do with them. It'll be low stakes. I'll buy a $20 game or something. And, if that's successful, then I go back for more.
Gotcha. Okay. No, very cool. And then you did mention price charting a little bit. Is that what you use to look at prices and determine, how much something's worth?
Price charting is a good route to go. It's not perfect by any
Right.
means,
Right.
but I find it sufficient. Um, it at least gives you a
Right.
ballpark of what other people at least have considered paying for it.
Right.
When you get on there, you can also, I don't know how much you've used price charting, but it can show you like previous eBay listings and stuff like that.
Right.
And
Yep.
you can usually know pretty immediately if it's like actually a legit price or not.
Hmm.
Um, but like I said, I just use it for a ballpark. I'm not like, nope, this is over price charting, and there's no way I'm paying that. I look
Right,
at the
right.
condition. I look at who's selling it. If I trust that person. If I'm buying it on eBay and I don't know the person, it's like, okay, it has to be at, for me, if it's not at price charting with shipping, like on eBay, I'm not buying it. Um, but if it's someone that I know and trust, or I'm at a trade show or whatever, or a Comic Con or whatever you want to call it, um, you know, and I can see the product in front of me. Okay, you brought it all the way here. I'll pay you the extra $5 because I don't, I'm not gonna haggle
Yeah,
you down for
yeah.
$5. Uh,
No, that makes a lot of sense. I get into a lot of disagreements with people and a lot of resellers I find who are reselling these games and trying to make a profit, and they'll say, a $50 game, oh, it's $85. And they're like, well, price charting's wrong. Price charting's wrong. But then you go in and you actually look and you say, no, no, no. See, this is a good condition game, and it sold for $52 last week, and you're trying to sell it for 80 because you're saying price charting is wrong. So I have a issue with people saying it's wrong, but I also have an issue with, what else are we going to use, right? Because otherwise, it's just you pricing it however you want, and me saying, okay, sounds good. So,
yeah, my
um,
other
yeah.
for price for me, pretty much if it's $100 is where I'm like, okay, is this really what I want or not?
Hmm.
Anything under 50, I don't even remotely haggle. In that $50 to $100 range, I'm like,
Right.
okay, what are we getting? Like,
Right.
what's the condition? What's you know, is it something? If I needed to get rid of it quickly, would I be able to get rid of it for the price I'm paying for it? Not that I pretty much never sell, so it's a weird thing to think about, but it's one of those things.
Yeah.
And
So
then
you
but
don't
once it,
sell. I thought I
yeah,
saw something on your page about you selling your games. Is that just old news and that's not the case anymore?
I do have a claim sale page, but
Oh,
I'm pretty sure the last post is from probably 2 years ago.
okay.
Um,
All right. Gotcha.
I
Okay.
yeah, I very rarely sell.
Okay. What um what about something in your collection that you're searching for actively that you can't really find a good deal on? If you find that great deal, you'll immediately buy it.
Oh, a grail item. So
Yeah, yeah, Grail that you don't have.
my grail is a original Donkey Kong cabinet, arcade cabinet.
Oh. Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I've had the opportunity to get at least three of them, and I've passed every time because financially I was not, you know, not ready
Okay.
for it.
Sure.
Uh, the I think on eBay they go for like $1,500,
Okay.
and again, that $100 price. If it's over that, I'm like, anything, So I had the opportunity to buy one for 600, but I had to drive pretty far distance to get it, and
Wow.
it was pretty much sight unseen. It was at an old arcade. They were offloading a bunch of
Okay.
stuff, but still, it was you know a
Yeah.
front photo, and that was like all I got.
Gotcha. You
And
never
a friend of
know in
mine
those
ended up
cases.
getting a right ended up getting a Mario Bros widescreen from them, um, and which is what alerted me to them they might even have it. I was like, man, I can't justify it right now, but I'm kicking myself, 2+ years later, probably 3 years later, that I didn't go and get it
Sure.
because
Yeah. Well, though, I mean, there'll be other chances. You never know. You just keep your eyes open,
yes,
and
for sure, for
something will come
sure,
along.
and
I think patience is key in this collecting world, especially the way the market is and the prices are. So,
100%, 100%. And I would even, go for a, they have the Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. double cabs where you play either game, or the Donkey Kong and the Mario Bros. I would even, uh, go down to that that on the Grail list.
yeah.
But a
So
more
why specifically
what's that?
that? Is there a lot of nostalgia for that? Did you play it a lot when you were younger, or you love the game, or what's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, I played every. So we have Shout out 16-bit bar. I go there all the time. Well, not all the time.
I've been to
I'm
one of
not an
those. Yeah,
alcoholic,
yeah.
but so they I believe they started here. I could be wrong about that, but
Okay, okay,
the original one just shut down last weekend. Actually, it's very
uh,
sad. It was
okay.
it was due. It was cramped and whatever. But I go there. Every time I go, I get a high score on Donkey Kong. It just kind of brings me a lot of joy. So
Okay, that's fair.
I don't particularly remember playing it growing up, but it's just the one that kind of is like this is it.
Gotcha. Okay. What about what's your grail that you do have? Your maybe rarest item or most expensive item in your collection?
Yeah. So well, let's start with this guy. So this is Famicom Rob, and so Famicom Rob was the first thing I ever imported, and you could at the time you could get a complete in box Famicom Rob with both video games. Trying to think of what they call it. I think it's Gyro and
Gyromite? Yeah,
Robot.
Gyromite, I think. Yeah.
Well, yes, here it's Stack Up and Gyromite. But in Japan, I think it's just Gyro and whatever. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
Um, you could get both games and Rob himself complete box for like half the price of what you could get for just Rob, the U.S. version, which I also have. But those were the first two items that back in 2015 when I started collecting, I was like, oh, these are fun. I want them, and I kind of searched them down. I think I did get those on eBay, um, but yeah, those were
Tell me
my
about
first
those
two
games.
Grail.
Tell me about the Rob games because I've not played them and I'm not super familiar. I know he has like these little discs that he holds or something. So, um,
So in this one, this is the stack up setup, and in the game you would tell him what colors to stack up, and he literally would pick them up and stack them.
with his arms, he'd grab them with his arms and move them.
Yeah, so he moves around and stacks them. The only issue is that he didn't work back then. He was a gimmick to get into the U.S. market.
Okay.
But he doesn't work now because he only works on CRTs.
Oh, okay.
And it's because of the way that the TVs function. So
Gotcha.
a CRT blinks from left to right, whereas a modern television it all blinks at the same time. And so Rob
Okay.
doesn't know
Makes
how to
sense.
use a new TV.
Yeah, he's not
So
he's not made for this fit for this world anymore, I guess. Is
yeah, poor
what's
guy, poor
happening.
guy. The other game, he would take a gyro, a little spinning disc, and he'd put it in the machine that makes it spins, and then he would slap the two little buttons that would make him hit A or B on your second player controller.
Huh.
So that's kind of neat, but like I said, they
Yeah.
never functioned correctly.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, gotcha. And then you had some other games I think nearby to show. Is there anything cool from your collection that you want to show off that we haven't talked about
Yeah,
as you take a drink? Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
So the most valuable item in my collection is kind of an odd one. It's this Dragon Ball Advance Adventures.
Okay.
Um, so I think price charting has it at like 350, and like I said, I don't anything over 100. I kind of tend to avoid.
Hmm.
But that one's like a 6-hour game, and it's like why is this valuable? My suspicion is it's because it was a late release for the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
But I actually had it box and manual, as a kid, because my Game
Hmm.
Boy Advance was stolen and all the games were stolen. But I had like
No.
6 games, just their boxes and their manuals, and I kept them until now, and I've slowly been
Gotcha.
refilling them. I was bitter about it for a little while, so I like wasn't willing to fill them up.
Hmm. Hmm.
But about a year ago, I've tracked down a cart for that one.
Okay.
Let's see. Couple cool guys here. So we got Super Mario 3D World. And this guy is signed by Charles Martinet. I think I'm pronouncing that
Oh,
incorrectly.
yeah, the
Who is
voice.
Mario? Yeah, yeah. He's Mario and Luigi. Here's his actual signature down here. It's signed by Bowser, which is Kenny James. He also
Okay.
decided to write over the side, which I thought was kind of fun.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and it's signed by Princess Peach, who also plays Toad. Samantha Kelly's her name. Kenny
Very cool.
Kenny James. Yeah, Kenny James is Bowser. And then it's also signed by Rosalina, who's not on the cover, so she wrote all over Mario's face there. And in case you're wondering, Charles gets very upset when people write on Mario's face.
So
It
she
was
did that
actually,
kind of intentionally. Yeah.
she was like, "Where do you want me to?" She was the first one that I had met that day. I met all four. They all came to Columbus, and she was like timid about where to sign because Rosalina wasn't on the front. I was like, "Just sign anywhere." Like, I'm not stressed about this, you know. And so that's where she ended up signing. Eventually, I get over to Charles, and he's like, "Why would she sign it on his face like that?" And
She knew. I think she knew. Yeah, I think that's what that
it,
was. Yeah.
she said it was the first time. My understanding, it was her first time at an event with him. But Kenny mentioned it before that because I got him. The longest line was, of course, for Mario.
Mm-hmm.
So I got them in like reverse order. I was like, okay, which one's the shortest line? That's whatever.
Mm. Yeah.
And Bowser mentioned like, hey, he's gonna be mad about this. Like he yelled at me once about this, and I'm like, oh, that's
Oh wow.
I really didn't think anything of it, and then he legitimately got mad. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Um,
That's crazy.
so, but all four of them, they're hanging on the wall. I got signed photos too, with all the different characters that
Cool.
day, and then actually the Mario behind me right here is signed by Charles
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
And then I have also signed by Charles the first game that he was Mario in. So that's
Okay.
fun.
Very cool. That is awesome.
He had come to Columbus 2 years in a row, so obviously I had to get his signature more than once because I decided to have them all in the same game. That's actually
Did
the
he
only
remember
game that
you
they're all four in.
the second time? Did he remember you and say, "Oh, you're the guy that Rosalina signed on my face"?
That would have been funny. First time he came by himself, and then the second time, the the event people brought all four of them together,
Oh,
and they did a
I
little
see.
panel,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is pretty cool.
I
But
gotcha.
yeah,
I gotcha.
let's see here. So we also have another Mario game.
Okay.
Got Wrecking Crew '98.
Wrecking Crew.
This was an
Okay.
exclusive to the Super Famicom. So it never made it to the U.S. It might be on Switch Online now. I'd have to double check that. But that one is one of the more expensive Mario games.
Is it just Mario with a jackhammer and you're kind of just digging through the ground to get stars or something? Or
That's funny. No, it's just like Wrecking Crew on the NES, where you're a construction crew, you're building.
Gotcha.
It's just the sequel to that.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Let's see. A standard game that I don't remember the exact price that I paid for it, but that I paid more than I typically would. I think it's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure why I'm questioning that now. So this one was originally really. I'm like, why did I pronounce it that way? Anyways, I had gotten the other four releases on the Switch, and I was hoping that someone would do a re-release or something. Ended up picking up the 3DS version, which is where it originally dropped, which it's also gone up in price. But this guy's now it was like a almost $400 game. Since it got re-released on PS4 and PS5 and something else, it's gone down a little bit.
What kind of game is that? I've not heard of that before. So, what do you
It's
do?
a platformer, 2D platformer.
Okay.
And they don't have any gameplay on it. But
That's unfortunate.
yeah, how rude, how rude.
Yeah.
But she runs around beating up people. It's kind of interesting.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but the first
Let
game,
me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
the first game in the series was on the Game Boy Color, but it released like
Okay.
close to when the DS was about to release, and
Oh, so
so
probably
it's
got
now
no
like
love.
yeah, Zero Love, and it was released by Capcom. Capcom was the maker of it, so
Love
I'm like,
Capcom. Yeah.
yeah, Capcom's always a good choice. But that one
Yeah.
goes for like 2 grand. So, but Limited Run did a re-release of it on the Game
Gotcha.
Boy Color, so that's pretty cool. I got that guy back there.
Okay.
But they
Gotcha.
also then ported it to the Switch and some of the other modern consoles. So, what
Okay.
were you asking? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask you a question I like to ask people. It's a little bit of a maybe a controversial topic, but I've gotten to know you for about 30 minutes or so now, I think. So I think I might know your answer. But what do you think about graded games?
No.
Just
Uh,
no. Okay. That's what I thought you would
no.
say. Not to that
I
degree,
think
but yeah.
um, for me, games are meant to be played. Um, so I very much, I get something and I almost immediately open it. And some people were like, well, if you're not gonna play it, like, why even open it? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to make sure they didn't send me a brick. I don't know. Um, so yeah, so graded games are not my thing. I'm more okay with like graded comics or graded like
Hmm.
cards. Like, I think those are fine because those are something that you're trying to keep pristine and so getting them graded and having them in those nice cases is great. Um, but the people that exclusively collect sealed games or go out of their way
Yeah.
to get the highest grade possible. And like, I've seen people like send stuff back in or send it to a different grader to get it, just from
Uh-huh.
a 9.6 to a 9.8 or whatever. I'm like, what?
I
It
I
just
I
doesn't bring
think
value to me.
yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think, I like to see it. I like to be unbiased when I think about it, and I think there are a lot of there are some pros and there are also a lot of cons to it. I think one big con that no one talks about is the prices of games are inflating, and I think that just makes it worse by grading a game and now it's worth this much and all this, and people are buying sealed games to grade and reselling them. So I think it hurts the gaming market in terms of prices for one. I can see it might be beneficial if, let's say, and I'm just maybe stretching here, maybe not everyone agrees, but if you have a complete in box NES game with all the styrofoam, everything, and you want to preserve that so it doesn't get damaged, you could put that in a plastic case so that you have that preserved,
Yep.
and it doesn't get
Plastic
broken.
cases,
The
you know, it's
right, no, yeah,
you know,
the other thing too, and again, I don't know what criteria they're using to say, okay, this is a legit copy or whatever. You mentioned earlier about the cardboard. It's hard to tell is this real or not. To me, that's the only way I know of someone looking at it and saying, yes, this is real. This is what it says it is, and this is the certification that says that. And if I'm looking to buy one, I can verify that. But again, who knows what their criteria are, and who knows if they're even qualified to do that? I don't know, but I don't think we have any other choice.
yeah. No, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
I do think it's fine. It is also a little bit cool. Like, oh, okay, it's this is a first print. And they get. I like seeing those kind of details. But it's just not something
Yeah.
that I would really go for.
I definitely do not like when I see someone show off their collection and it's every single GameCube game they have is graded. They've got Super Smash Brothers, they've got Donkey Kong, they got Legend of Zelda, they've got like you know Super Monkey Ball, like things that aren't even that rare or that exciting, and they've just graded all of them, and that kind of makes me a little angry and
Well, yeah,
frustrated.
even
But
like people have been. I've noticed an influx of like people getting Switch games graded, and I'm like, I
wow,
can go to
I've seen
Target
that
right
too.
now and buy that, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, that's
I
just
don't know.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's a
not
sealed
not
Switch
not.
game, yeah, that you can, like you said, go to Target, buy it. Maybe you should just go buy out Target and buy all of the Switch games and go get them graded and make a profit off of it. I mean, that would be, that's just insane. I don't understand why people do that.
And I mean, I know some of them are wanting to like, you know, hold on to it and like, oh, it's going to appreciate over time. And I'm like, sure, it might, but like, if you don't personally have an attachment to the game, or what's the point?
I
I don't know.
I don't think there's a lot of Switch game. I mean, maybe a couple, but as many as I see, like you're saying, graded, I don't think a lot of those are going to quote appreciate over time or even appreciate enough to even make it worth it because you have to pay to get it graded. It's like
Right,
I don't
right.
know how much it is, but I think it's like sometimes $100 or more, just depending on the value and what you're getting graded. And so definitely no, definitely something to think about. That's it. That was a good discussion. No, I appreciate that. I'll be honest, I own a couple graded games, but they're only for the reasons I mentioned. One because they meant something to me. I want to preserve them. One of them is because I want to make sure it's legit and what it's actually supposed to be, because it's actually a several $1,000 game and very rare. And then the others are ones that when I first started getting into collecting, I was like, oh, grading's the new thing. You got to get graded games. So I got like one or two, and I was like, wait a minute, this is stupid. So yeah.
There was a moment where a couple years ago when I first got on Instagram. I've been posting since 2018, and and I was like, oh, everybody is getting stuff graded. Maybe I should start finding sealed games. And I'm like, that's just not what I'm really interested in. So yeah,
Kind of lost you there. I think I got you back.
yeah, I wasn't sure. It gave
Yeah.
me the spinning wheel for a split second there.
Yeah, we're
So
good.
welcome
We're
back.
good. I got you. You were saying something about a couple years ago. We were talking about graded games and
Oh yeah, so a couple years ago, I've been posting on Instagram pretty much daily since 2018, and there was a moment where it seemed like every single post was someone getting a graded game, and there was a moment where I was like, oh, maybe I
yeah,
should start doing that too, and you kind of
right.
get influenced into that kind of whatever it might be. Um, Obviously, I didn't do
Sure.
that. And there were some people that were getting random things graded, like you know, I saw at one point a broken. I'm pretty sure it was either Legend of Zelda or uh, Zelda 2, a gold cart, but it was like cracked. It was like their childhood copy, and it literally got
Oh,
like a
yep.
4. And I'm like,
Yeah.
did it actually like
I would
what
just
did you
break it
benefit
back
out of
open at
that?
that point. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted it encased forever, by someone. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Um, you
Yeah,
you know what I did with
yeah.
my broken, so my favorite game ever. I broke the cart because that's just it just happens, right? And so what I decided to do
Cool.
was I put it in a custom case. So I got my childhood board in here, inside of a custom case that doesn't light up or anything, and of course because I've started collecting all of them, which is an endeavor, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got another first print, and it's in a custom game case with a manual.
No,
But
that's
I still have
perfect.
this one. Um,
Yeah.
it played fine. It
So
just the back
what?
was so severely cracked that it had to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. So we got maybe like 10 minutes or so in terms of time here. So I want to do a little what I like to call the rapid fire portion of the interview. Now, at some point when I get advanced enough and know what I'm doing with video editing, I'm going to make some sort of like really cool snazzy intro with like graphics and stuff, rapid fire, music, whatever. But for today, this is all you
Hey,
get.
I'll
This is
come
just
back
it's just
when
me.
you're ready for it.
So, yeah. Perfect. All right, here we go. So first off, I think you mentioned this already, but I'll ask it again. What are you currently playing through? What game or games?
Yep, working on Link's Awakening with the kiddo on the Switch.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Favorite console of all time?
Got to be the Super Nintendo.
Why?
It's well, of course it's partly nostalgia, right? I
Okay.
remember playing it.
Okay.
My brother at one point gave me a broken controller, and I thought I was playing with him, and all the way
Wow.
through. Uh, you know, there was a point where I think it was the Dreamcast that was coming out, and I literally asked my dad for another Super Nintendo because either mine had broken or gotten stolen or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Like
"What are you talking about, dude? Like,
Don't you want a
They're about to come out
Dreamcast?
with a GameCube in a couple years, whatever. I'm like, no, I need my Super Nintendo back.
Okay, very cool. What about favorite game of all time?
Favorite game of all time,
Hmm.
Mario World.
Super Mario World. That's a good choice. It's
Or
probably one of
Mario
my
3.
top.
They're all the best.
Yeah, Super Mario World definitely my top three on Super Nintendo, and Super Mario 3 is definitely my top three on NES. All right, on the other end of the spectrum, least favorite or maybe the worst game you've ever played?
Worst game. So my
Yeah.
least favorite, and I'm just sticking with Mario, and that's what I consider myself an expert on. Those two
Okay.
games that I showed that were signed are my least favorite platformers, and you can throw Mario Sunshine in there too. And it's always a hot button topic there, but
Yeah. So one of those was Super Mario 64, right?
yes,
Yeah. So
yep.
now
So
this is good.
I
I personally also am not a huge fan of Super Mario 64, and I feel like every Mario person loves it and thinks it's one of the greatest Mario games ever made. But it didn't hit that well for me.
Doc, they're wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I don't disagree. There were so many better games on Nintendo 64, and there are so many better Mario games.
So there are people that are like, oh, you know, um, it's not just about the game itself. It's about what it built and what
Hmm.
the future and blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's great. I want to pop it in now and enjoy it today. I actually just someone was popping their gums to me the other day in the comment section. I was like, you know what? It's been about 5 years since I've really spent any time with Mario 64. I'm gonna play it today. So I
Hmm.
shoved it in. I beat the whole first world, whatever, Bob-omb's Battlefield or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And I was like, I remember why I hate this game. I'm like, it's the controls are terrible, the cameras are terrible. The graphics part that doesn't bother me. I
Sure.
prefer older games, so I don't care about that part. But just
Yeah.
like the inability to really control the camera just drove me nuts.
No.
And
Yeah.
then you hit the same button and you do like seven different things. Um,
Right.
I'm flipping backwards when I want to jump forwards. I'm like, no, this is not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I
If
even got like
if
yeah,
Oh no, keep going. Keep going. I'm loving
I even
this.
got one of the like retro fighter uh controllers. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's this controller. I have probably 8 N64 controllers, and I'm like, you know what? It's a controller. I'll try to buy a modern controller and do that. And I have the same problem with Banjo Kazooie. And
Never
I
played
know a
it.
lot of
Never
people.
played it. So yeah.
A lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for both of those games, and they're like, oh, they're just best games ever, and they're great collectathons, and they're this and that. And I'm like, I love collectathons. I love platformers. I love the 3D versions. A Spyro or a Crash or whatever. I
Yeah.
even brought Spyro over.
Yeah.
You know, I I love those types of games. I could not get on with either one. I've beaten Mario 64, all 120 stars, blah blah blah, whatever. I got annoyed with Banjo Kazooie a couple years ago, and I was like, I'm done. Like, why am I trying this one thing that I see the stupid thing and I can't? The camera isn't cooperating. Like, I
Right.
can't. I can't do it.
That's fair. I have yet. I This is great because I've never met someone who shares my loathing of Super Mario 64 in a world where everyone seems to love it. But I don't necessarily hate it. I just don't think it's one of the best games of all time or one of the best Mario
No,
games even.
it
So
it has a lot going for it, and there's a lot of innovation there, and there's a lot that it is built from into future games. It just every game after it just did so much better, and every game before it was just so much better for me.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
now,
If you're watching
yeah.
this, if you're watching this, and tell us in the comments, what do you think of Mario 64? Because I'm interested to see what people think. If you've made it this far and you're listening, put in the comments what you think about Super Mario 64, because that would be something I'd be interested in if we're alone on that or not. Um, Next question though is going to be what's the most difficult game or most difficult level in any game that you've ever played? And don't say Mario 64
So
because of the camera.
no, I didn't find Mario 64 very difficult. Oh,
Okay.
Actually, part of the reason why I hate 3D World, which is the one I got signed by all the people, is because I can't think of if it's called Champions Road, whatever the last three levels are. They are the difficulty. Part of the reason you to get everything in the game to 100% it, you had to beat every level a minimum of 5 times. So right off the bat, like that's nonsense. Now, if you play it with friends, whatever, okay, you don't have to beat it 5 times. I don't have 5 friends, not to play, not to sit around and play, an entire game with, right? So you have to beat it 5 times. That's annoying in and of itself. And then you go into these final 3 levels that you've already beaten all the other levels, and you play this level, and you can't. The difficulty jumped so dramatically. And of course, there's people that can beat it, but I find it to be an extremely difficult level. So a little hostile.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. What about your favorite multiplayer game of all time?
Favorite multiplayer? Favorite multiplayer. Well, right now, me and my daughter have been playing Mario Party Jamboree a lot. So okay. I'll go with that one. I've been enjoying that.
A Mario game we didn't bring up, which is one of my favorite Mario games of all time, I think, and maybe you disagree, but the Super Mario Maker. I thought that was a really cool idea, a really cool concept. I enjoyed making levels, playing levels that people made. It was a lot of fun.
So Mario Maker, I actually, I got wind of Mario Maker. I didn't have a Wii U at the time, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna get a Wii U for this, and I literally had dreams about levels that I was gonna create, and I never seen a trailer. I never saw anything like other than Mario Maker's coming out. You can make your own Mario levels. So I'm like dreaming about these cool levels that I can play and make and whatever. And well, it's a lot harder than I expected to make the levels. And the other part was that you couldn't possibly do the level that I was wanting to do, but that's
unfortunate.
We'll save that for another time.
It is difficult to make a good level. I would admit that. But you know what? With the new Switch 2 coming out, if Nintendo's listening, an idea that I have that I think would be great is Mario Kart Maker, where you make your own Mario Kart levels. I think that would be pretty cool. But
that would be really sweet. That would be really really
so we'll
sweet.
See. You heard it here first.
I suspect that.
I'm just. So.
Yeah. I suspect with the Switch 2 having the kind of mouse abilities with the new Joy-Con 2s, that we'll definitely have a Mario Maker 3 very soon. Right. And with them doing the Mario Kart Lego, they might go with the have a Mario Kart area in there. That would be super sweet.
So as we finish up here, just a couple questions left for you. What about any advice that you have to people who are starting collecting, don't know where to begin, or have concerns, or just anxious about it because there's so much to know and so much to collect?
Well, my first suggestion is don't do that. No, I'm just kidding. For me, you got to collect what you enjoy. If it's that you enjoy playing it, great. If it's that you enjoy seeing it on the shelf, great. I actually just had some friends over tonight, and the 2 younger kids, I think like 8 and 4, and my daughter's 5. So that we're all down here in the basement, not the biggest space, and I pull out the mystery block Lego, just the big guy, and it ended up smashed on the floor, and my friend was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe," I'm like, it's meant to be played with. I'm gonna enjoy rebuilding it. Like, it's gonna be fun. So for me, don't take it so seriously. Enjoy it. Enjoy what you got. Etc.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that's kind of everyone's advice, is kind of go for what you want to play and what you're interested in. Don't let other people tell you what to go after, and make sure you're patient when you are looking for these things. You don't have to do it all at once. I definitely don't want to go bankrupt, because that's very possible with the prices on some of these games these days if you get out of hand.
For sure. And I think you'll get bored with it or burnt out if you're trying to get everything that you possibly can at once.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's not gonna you're not gonna find the joy and the hunt and the people that you meet, and
Yeah.
that's all a big
Definitely.
part of it.
What about your accounts? So I know you have an Instagram, and I think you have a YouTube as well, and you may have a TikTok. I think. Tell me about those and how people can follow you and what you do on them.
Yeah, so I'm primarily on Instagram right now, nintendocam. I do have a TikTok, but when all of the band things started, I stopped posting on there just because I didn't want to deal with it. But you can find me there, nintcam. You can find my YouTube page that doesn't have anything uploaded to it yet. That's going to be
Okay.
kind of the biggest project for me this year, is going to be starting to upload things there. I typically do more photos than I do videos. So that's a big part of why I've chosen Instagram as my kind of platform. Um, and I just kind of built a nice little community there. That's what I
What's the
enjoy.
plan for YouTube? What kind of stuff are you gonna put on there?
Great question. So
Still
the first thing
thinking.
I want to
Okay.
do is is a great tour, room tour. I did
Okay.
one with another creator about 4 years ago, and my collection's like triple the size now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'd hope to bring him back, but now I'm like, you know what, I can probably do it myself, or have
Yeah. There you
someone,
go.
have
Yeah.
someone do it with me. And
Yeah.
so I want to do that. I'd like to do, maybe some live streams. Maybe start doing a Twitch, or
Okay.
living on Instagram a little bit more.
Okay.
So I just kind of started getting some equipment for that.
Nice. Very cool. Well, it was awesome to have you on the show. I loved our talk about graded games, and then, learning about finding someone that also didn't like Super Mario 64, which I feel like is very rare. But again, thanks for coming on the show. Okay. Everybody make sure that you follow Cam on his Instagram, Nintendo Cam, Ninty Cam on TikTok, if, maybe he'll post something, who knows. And then YouTube, which is YouTube is Nintendo Cam as well.
Ninty cam, yep.
Ninty Cam. Okay, so the only Nintendo Cam is just Instagram. So yeah. So everyone, thanks for watching. Hope you guys learned some stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And if you like what you see, make sure you like, make sure you follow, make sure you check me out on all my other socials as well, on Instagram, on TikTok, and then here on YouTube as well. It's Dr. Gamer Retro on all those. We'll see you guys next time for the next episode of Video Game Collectors on Call. Bye everyone.